Dina Wadia, partner and head of banking and finance practice at Sagar Associates, joins in, and in a bit, Arundhati Bhattacharya, whom we now know is one of the 50 most powerful persons in India, will also be joining us. Dina, yesterday the Gujarat High Court cancelled a part of the earlier circular of the Reserve Bank of India naming all directors as liable to be willful defaulters. Is this going to have a persuasive impact on the circular given day before yesterday as well? Will it lose its teeth, so to speak?
Well, good morning, everybody. And I don't think it will have a very material.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Dina.
Yes. Well, sorry. The judgment that came 2 days ago, basically, one of the key things is that it upholds the rights of the RBI and holds as valid the issue of the guidelines and the circular. What it has sought to distinguish, and it has struck down part, is that by making a declaration of a unit as a willful defaulter, you cannot tar all the directors with the same brush as willful defaulters or declare all of them as willful defaulters. They seek to distinguish between promoters and entrepreneurs and the other directors. To my mind, I don't think that is fatal in any way to the existing circular. Okay. Because if you read the existing circular and the existing guidelines, it also seeks to hold promoters and entrepreneurs as more responsible and liable to be declared as willful defaulters, because the effect of a declaration is really on them. It's that they cannot then seek additional institutional finance. Okay. So I don't think the circular seeks to paint all directors as willful defaulters. And if you see the recent action that was taken for Kingfisher, along with Mr. Mallya, only 3 other directors were so declared, not the entire board. So there is some, I think, learning or basis or some kind of a guidance to banks maybe when they are going through the process, not to declare the entire board, but to perhaps distinguish between promoters and entrepreneurs and other directors such as nominee directors, independent directors.
Fair point, Dina. Let me get Mrs. Bhattacharya in as well. First of all, Ms. Bhattacharya, congratulations for being one of the top 50 most influential people in India. We didn't need Bloomberg to tell us that, though. On the issue of the expansion of the ambit of willful defaulters, does it strengthen a bank's position? Are you able to put the fear of God, or do you think you will be able to put the fear of God in companies and therefore make them pay up when they can?
Well, anything that strengthens the willful defaulter rules, they are a positive for the bank. Having said that, what the RBI directive has currently done is, it allows us to proceed against the guarantors at the same time as we do against the main borrowers. Earlier also we could proceed against guarantors, but it had to be first the borrower who would have to be considered a willful defaulter, and only then we could go against the guarantors. So this sequential process obviously resulted in delays. And then what we could not do is that in case the guarantors had the ability to repay and they were not repaying, we could not take them up separately for that. Now this is what has been empowered by the circular currently. Again, I was following the conversation that you just had with Ms. Wadia regarding the High Court order, which says that you can't tar everybody with the same brush. In a way, I think that is important also, because we have to also understand that independent directors are not always privy to every single action of the company or its promoters. and therefore, to also declare the entire board would make things very difficult going forward, because nobody would be willing to come in as an independent director at all in that case, which again is counterproductive.
Okay. Well, Mrs. Bhattacharya, we already know of one willful defaulter case, which some banks have identified as Kingfisher. Are you going to proceed now against United Brewery Holdings?
Yes, of course, that is automatically comes in. Once you have done Kingfisher, automatically the guarantors also will obviously be issued the same.
Are they liable to the entire 6,000 crore?
You are aware that United Bank has already done it.
Yeah, Mrs. Bhattacharya, are they therefore liable to pay that entire 6,000, 7,000 crore? Because it's a richer company and can pay. So will you expect, send such a notice to them?
I think that will be done, yes.
Okay. Dina, I just wanted to get you in on what the way forward could be in terms of whether this whole exercise helps improve the corporate governance. Will we see a lot more willful defaulters coming up? And also, how does one really make the process watertight now? How will it be easier for banks to identify who the willful defaulters are?
Well, I think the banks are know very well who their defaulters are and also their willful defaulters. The banks, in India have traditionally given the companies and promoters a very long rope and have taken usually a very benign attitude. And I think that is changing. And I think, along with the climate and the fact that, there are stresses, that the NPAs are increasing, the banks are also under, more pressure to recover. And I think you will start seeing more recovery, and with the tightening up of the willful defaulter provisions, and as very rightly Mrs. Bhattacharya said, that the extension to non-group companies, individuals, and the implications that has once you are declared a willful defaulter, not only legally that you can be proceeded against, that your finances or avenues to finance are cut off, but also such persons may be required, not legally as such, but it is a kind of a very strong persuasive element to step off boards, and boards will not want to have such persons, on their boards, because it then restricts those companies and it has a cascading effect. Those companies then, also acquire a kind of taint that they have such persons on the board. So I think it will lead, one hopes, to tightening up and a lot, better corporate governance. More care on the part of companies to see that, and the promoters to see that they do not get tagged with this tag. The other thing that I would say also is what the Gujarat judgment also showed was that the procedure that has been laid down in the circular to follow is basically a natural justice procedure, and it is not unduly onerous for the banks. And what seems to have happened in that case is that they said that merely saying that somebody is a willful defaulter or has siphoned funds is not enough. You must give reasons, you must give the person adequate opportunity, and then come to an informed decision. So I think banks, they may be at their end of the tether with certain groups, but they need to follow the procedure.
Yeah.
And if the procedure that is laid down is followed, then I think they can be, at least, that their decisions will not be assailed.
Fair enough.
Even in this case, the show cause notice was struck down, but they were given the liberty to file a fresh one.
Yeah.
So it is not as if the bank has no remedy left, but it's a powerful weapon, and I think the overall effect of this will have a very sobering effect on I think, some of our more egregious, borrowers.
Okay, that's very euphemistically put. Thank you very much, Dina, for joining us in this conversation. We have to keep you for a little longer, Mrs. Bhattacharya. Well, the next follow-up question is, are there other willful defaulters whom you can now chase and get money because you can encash the personal guarantee or enforce the personal guarantee issued by groups, groups like maybe Winsome, I don't know if it falls in this category. Any other? Are we going to see a bigger recovery this year?
Actually, Lata, means I don't know why there is an idea that banks have not been declaring willful defaulters. If you go to the RBI site,
the law has
find a whole list of names.
Yeah, no, the law has made you more powerful now, that's why.
Yes, but if you remember, it has also told us that this is for a prospective effect.
Okay.
That means it does not give us retrospective effect on those guarantees that have already been given. So it's a law that prospectively, going forward, will ensure better corporate governance amongst corporates, and also will empower us in respect of those accounts where we start taking guarantees now and against which we might have to execute at a later stage.
Are both prospective, Mrs. Bhattacharya, are both prospective, the fact that non-group companies and individuals can only be prospectively pursued, and the fact that the guarantor's liabilities start the moment the company is declared a defaulter, even that is prospective?
No, the guarantor's liability starts the moment a company is declared as a defaulter. This was already there.
Okay.
This was already there, and that is why, when you asked me the earlier question, I answered that if the main company is declared a defaulter, obviously the next step will be to go after the guarantors. So to that extent, it was already there. What is different now is the fact that we can start both of these processes at the same time, and also the other companies in the group, they can also be tagged accordingly. So to that extent, the weapon that was already there has been further strengthened. But it's not as though we have not been using this, and we have been doing this willful defaulter for a number of companies. In fact, the grievance redressal cell meets weekly in our offices. We already have this, and it's been happening for the past 1 year regularly. So to that extent, our efforts to declare willful defaulters, this is an ongoing process. It has been going on. It has been further strengthened with this. That's all I can say.
Okay. So let's shift the topic a little bit. Ms. Bhattacharya, what is your assessment of the situation as far as the coal block allocation is concerned? What is the exposure of loans that SBI has to the coal blocks? And in case, we're still awaiting the final verdict, but in case the 218 coal blocks are cancelled, then what is the quantum of loans that are at risk?
See, every case is different. There are people who have dependencies on the coal blocks, but where they may not have yet started investment in them. There are other companies that have already invested partly. There are yet other companies who are already producing. Also, in respect of many of these companies, some of them, for instance, for power manufacturers, they may have complete pass-through. So even if they lose the coal blocks, and in lieu of that, if they get coal linkages, which I think will be arranged, in that case too, it would not impact them all that severely. Not only the power producers, these will also have impact on other, say, steel manufacturers and other such companies. Now, there again, it depends, whether they are solely dependent on that one mine, whether that company is part of a big group or not. So, to assess immediately as to what would be the exact impact is very, very difficult. We have to see as it goes forward. In respect of our exposure, we have only 6 companies, 6 power companies who have a direct linkage with one coal block. And the exposure to these companies is around 4,000 crores. But we do expect, as I said again, and we have had informal discussions with ministry officials, and they have also assured that in case there is no mala-fide in respect of these allocations, then they would definitely look at coal linkages so that the power units themselves don't suffer. So therefore, at this point of time, to exactly tell you what would be the numbers and how it would impact, very difficult. it would mean the loss of some EBITDA, some margin compression in respect of companies which are in much bigger groups, which have other mines as well, or who are able to buy coal, import coal. So there are many other ways of handling this issue, and therefore, we have to wait as to what will be the fallout of the whole thing.
Okay, actually, Mrs. Bhattacharya, a bunch of those 40 companies, almost 20 of them are SEBs or state industrial development corporations. There is a Karnataka Power Corporation, there is an Arunachal Pradesh Mining Corporation. I mean, these are all state bodies. And then I think West Bengal, there is an SEB which owns one of the coal mines. Have you exposure to any of these, and are these more dodgy?
No, none of them. We don't have any exposures to those.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to know also one more specific case, Bhushan. Is it on the verge of a bad loan at all?
I don't really think so. Their production is perfectly in order. As you know, we have also inducted a technical expert from M.N. Dastur, and we have also inducted from the Big Four somebody to come in as a concurrent auditor, so that every payment that comes in and goes out is properly audited and we know what is happening with the money. From all reports, the company is working, and at this point of time we are not seeing immediate issues.
Okay, then just a couple of more questions before we let you go, ma'am. If you could first tell us what's happening with respect to the stake sale. We understand from reports that 9 bankers have been shortlisted for that particular sale. Will it be done through a QIP or through an FPO, and when do you plan to conclude the process?
There is no plan to do a QIP or a FPO right now. Okay. The empanelment is for the whole year, and this is a standard process that we do in respect of many of the services that we take. So it has no connection immediately with any stake sale.
Okay. A final word on how is the NPA shaping up? Have we peaked off? Have you seen any improvement on the ground in terms of better orders and therefore plateauing of bad news?
Better orders, not really. However, there are very many other indicators in the economy that seems to be indicating that, things are turning for the better. I was talking about a few of them in NDTV yesterday. For instance, freight movement, freight payments. If you look at the survey, the RBI survey on consumer confidence, there are a few other leading indicators also, the OECD combined leading indicator. So all of these seem to indicate that the economy is indeed picking up, and confidence is at the highest level since October 2010. Having said that, it is also a fact that we have seen people being able to raise money from the capital markets. We are also seeing asset sales taking place. Okay. So to that extent, the stress has indeed reduced. But whether this will mean that this is the end and we start seeing the cycle moving up again, I think I'll stick to my earlier version that whatever I had said, that we need to wait for another 2 quarters after the GDP turns. If we say that the GDP has already turned last quarter, then maybe another 2 quarters, that is up to December end. Yep. We should wait till then to see how the matter stabilize. But definitely it looks as though the stresses, they have reduced. Okay. I will not say that they have disappeared, but they have reduced.
Fair point. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bhattacharya, for joining us today on many issues confronting the banking sector.